Konnichiwa. So this is number 3, and you know, I'm on a roll, and I'm gonna make you know, the 3rd one here, and I'll just post these like every 2 days. So hopefully they're not terribly boring. But I just found some footage actually of a summer festival a couple years ago, so I am editing a video. It'll be up soon. But hopefully you're enjoying these as well. Okay, jumping back into your questions. Here we go. Stephen Nicola 123 asks, where the devil did the last 10 years go? I agree. You know, I mean, I realized that 2001 was a significant year, and you know, burned in the consciousness of everyone old enough to remember. But yeah, it's just so crazy to me that, you know, like Y2K and all that, and it's now been 10 years, and yeah, from age 30 to 40, because I pretty much turn 40 like 6 months before the decade every year, or every 10 years. So yeah, it's, and what are we calling them? Somebody else asked me, and when I get to his comment, I'll mention it. Somebody else asked me what the 00 tag was, and that's, you know, for the aughts, the I don't know what we're going to call this decade. You know, the first decade of the 21st century. I don't know what they call the 0 through 1909. What did they call that? Anyway, yeah, it's crazy to me. But you know, I spent half the decade in Japan, literally. You know, so yeah, it was kind of a weird decade for me overall. All right. Zellico asks kind of an interesting little Japanese question, but I honestly, he asked me about something called dajare. They're these kind of like Japanese puns, where they, and if you just type in dajare, D-A-J-A-R-E, into like Wikipedia or something, you'll get a whole like list of them. I didn't really notice them, to be honest, and no, I never used one to break the ice with someone. Yeah, my Japanese was never good enough to like know about that. But Hiko Simon, I think, is going to do some videos about things kind of like that. More, oh, I forget what they're called in Japanese. More like proverbs, like the monkey doesn't fall far from the tree type of thing. And but that's not exactly what you're talking about, I know. But yeah, I would notice it every now and then on posters and stuff. But yeah, I don't really know that much about it. Okay, jumping on to the next page. Emmy1 asks, if I go to Japan, what is the one place or one thing I must absolutely see or experience? Man, you know, that's so hard. You know, things that I would really want to go and see and do, you know, might be totally different. Like the one thing I really wanted to do when I was in Japan, just because I grew up in Southern California, is I really wanted to go to Tokyo Disneyland and just kind of compare it. And so I know Disneyland so well, and I've been so many times, and I never did, and I should have. But as you guys know, if you've watched this channel for a while, I didn't really get back to Tokyo. Except for that one time in my whole 5 years. So, but I enjoyed my trips to USJ. That was a lot of fun. That's definitely a place, if you're going with a bunch of friends, it's really fun. Historical places, like I mentioned before, Todaji and Nara, Kyoto. You know, there's so many great things to see in the city of Kyoto. Of course, you know, Hiroshima, I think, is a significant and wonderful place to really get some perspective on everything. I love Fukuoka. I really want to go to Nagasaki. I haven't been there yet. But yeah, I mean, there's just so much to do in Japan, and so many, you know, I'd love to go to the Ghibli, I think that's how you say it, the Ghibli Museum, and see all the Miyazaki stuff, you know, from Totoro and, you know, Princess Mononoke, etc., etc. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, you know, for me, I mean, the one thing you should go do is see live sumo. But, you know, that's just me. I mean, I would tell anybody going now that you should spend one day and do that, if it's going when you're in Japan. All right. Tuki TN asks, would I give up my United States citizenship to live and work in Japan? No, probably not. There's really no advantage to becoming a Japanese citizen unless you're going to marry a Japanese person and, you know, live there forever. Then, you know, I'm sure there's tax things and this and that and all this kind of stuff. You know, my parents actually, in a reverse situation, my dad worked for a company called Rolls-Royce Motors, came to America when he was in his 20s with my mom, and they had us 3 kids here in America, so we're all, you know, dual citizens, America, England. But they never became American citizens, so they never were able to vote and do some of that stuff. They're just green card aliens, for lack of a better term. And they were fine with that, and it was never a problem for them. But, you know, when they came over in the 1960s, it was a much different time than it is now. But yeah, I don't think I would ever give up my American citizenship, you know, to stay in Japan. But, you know, like I said, I mean, who knows? If I met a Japanese woman and I wanted to get married and live there forever and ever, then maybe. Kleinik asks, other than Shimane, where would you most want to live? Well, it's funny, I used to talk, when I talked about, I thought I'd only have 3 years in Shimane, and I said, oh, you know, but I'd kind of like to stay in Japan, but I definitely want to get out of the Inaka and go live, you know, somewhere where there's more young people and more nightlife and more restaurants and more things to do. And it's funny, I think, you know, in the last, say, 2 years I lived in Shimane, I came to realize how much I really enjoyed living in my small town, and how much I miss now being back in America and being in a very large city, San Diego, how much I miss my small town life, more even so than I miss Japan, if you will. So now I'm very happy to have the prospect of possibly going back to Shimane to work. But I still, I mean, I have a line on a job which would put me kind of, I don't want to say where it is, I don't want to jinx it and all that, but it wouldn't really be in Kansai, but it would be much closer to like a Shinkansen and accessible rail travel and other big cities and, you know, YouTube vloggers that I know. And yeah, so I think there are definitely benefits of living a more suburban lifestyle in Japan. But I certainly, you know, I knew nothing about Shimane when I got the letter in the mail from Jet in 2004, but I absolutely love my time there, so there you go. Sergeant Cigar asks, what is the internet speed like over in Japan? I had like a DSL cable modem, and it was okay. I mean, it's pretty comparable to what I have now here at my mom and dad's house. Yeah, I had no complaints. I'm sure it's better if you live in Tokyo or Osaka or somewhere, you know, and maybe they even have things like Wi-Fi. I mean, there's certainly nothing like that out in Shimane in the rural parts where people get sent. But yeah, you know, it was fine. I had no complaints. All right, last one probably for this one. Platonic TV asks, was I both an Eikaiwa teacher and an ALT? No. When you're on Jet, you can't really have any other job, at least not officially. So you certainly can't also work for Aeon or Nova back in the day or anything like that. So some CIRs have to do kind of like Eikaiwa as part of their job. And they're asked to do kind of community, you know, courses where they teach like the elderly or, you know, people on a volunteer basis kind of a thing. But I never really had that much experience with that at all. It's, you know, people say, oh, when you go back, I really want to teach again in the public schools. I don't want to work at a language school. Not that I'm sure that you don't get wonderful students at a language school and there's a whole different like world of experience doing that. It's just, I don't think it's for me. Unless I was like in a very interesting situation, kind of like Victor, you know, Give Me a Break Man, who has his own school and he seems to have really cool clients and customers and stuff. So I don't know. I definitely wouldn't want to teach, you know, a lot of times if you get set at a language school, you're going to teach kids that are like preschool, like that aren't in school yet. I definitely don't want to teach like infants and like 4 and 5-year-olds. That doesn't hold any appeal for me. And you teach a lot of older people who their like hobby is learning English, and that doesn't appeal to me either. So, okay, and that's page 5. Let's see if I can do this last one here in the last few seconds. Oh, that one's going to be too long. Okay, 42317 was the one who asked about the 00 tag, and I answered that. Okay, that's it for this one. You know, I'm going to be wearing the same shirt, but I think I'm going to do a part 4 tonight and just roll them out. Okay? Thanks for watching. Bye.